His Last Bow, 1917, Episode 5, The Disappearance of Lady Frances Carfax. Welcome back, fellow detectives. After Holmes's theatrical masterpiece in Catching a Poisoner, you've seen how far he'll go to achieve justice, but today's case reminds us that even the great detective can make mistakes, and that sometimes the most dangerous errors come from underestimating urgency. Have you ever dismissed a problem as minor only to discover too late that every wasted moment brought tragedy closer? Prepare for a race against time across Europe where Holmes must find a missing aristocratic lady before she becomes victim of one of the most macabre murder plots in his career. Picture 221B Baker Street on a pleasant summer morning in 1902. Holmes is in good spirits, having just solved 3 cases rapidly. A telegram arrives from Lausanne, Switzerland. Holmes reads it and tosses it dismissively. A missing person case. Lady Frances Carfax has disappeared from her hotel. Her former governess, Miss Daubney, requests my assistance. Watson picks up the telegram. A titled lady missing in Switzerland? That sounds serious. But Holmes waves it off. Missing aristocrats usually turn out to be eloping with unsuitable suitors or hiding from creditors. Lady Frances is middle-aged, unmarried, travels constantly. She's probably simply moved hotels without informing her old governess. Here's the first mistake. Holmes's assumption: this is trivial. He's become, perhaps, too accustomed to dramatic crimes. A missing middle-aged lady doesn't trigger his usual instincts. Can you see how even brilliance can be undermined by complacency? Still, Watson suggests, Miss Daubney seems genuinely worried. Perhaps we should investigate? Holmes considers. I'm expecting several important London cases. I can't abandon them to chase after a lady who's probably just changed hotels. Watson, why don't you go? If it proves genuinely mysterious, telegraph me to join you. Think of it as a holiday with purpose. Watson is flattered. You really think I can handle this alone? Holmes's answer reveals both confidence and dangerous underestimation. You know my methods. Apply them, and you'll quickly determine whether Lady Frances is genuinely in danger or simply being inconsiderate. If it's the latter, enjoy Switzerland's mountains. So, Watson travels to Lausanne, arriving at the elegant hotel where Lady Frances had been staying. The manager confirms she checked out 6 days ago without leaving a forwarding address. Unusual, as she'd been a regular guest who always announced travel plans. Her room was paid in full, possessions taken, but no one knew where she'd gone. Did she seem distressed? Any suspicious characters? Watson asks. The manager thinks there was a rough-looking man who asked about her several times, claimed to be an old friend from missionary work, and a very pious gentleman, Dr. Schlesinger, who befriended her in her final weeks here. He and his wife seemed quite taken with Lady Frances. Think about these details: a rough-looking man asking questions, and a religious couple who suddenly befriended a wealthy, lonely woman. Innocent connections or potential threats? Watson interviews Miss Daubney, who's traveled from England in distress. Dr. Watson, Lady Frances is not the type to disappear without word. She's methodical, responsible, always sends letters. She has no family left. I'm her only connection to England. For her to vanish is completely out of character. Tell me about her circumstances, Watson requests. Miss Daubney explains, Lady Frances is the last of her family line. She has a small income, adequate, but not lavish. She travels Europe staying at respectable hotels, does charity work, lives a quiet, blameless life. As for enemies, I can't imagine any. Unless, she hesitates, there was mention of a rough man who'd approached her, claiming they'd met during missionary work in Adelaide. Lady Frances didn't remember him but found him unsettling. Watson's instincts prickle. Did she give any description? Miss Daubney consults her letter. She called him weather-beaten, with the look of someone who'd lived hard. His name was Henry Peters, or Peterson, she wasn't certain. He kept insisting they'd known each other in Australia, but Lady Frances did missionary work in South Africa, not Australia. Can you see the red flag? A man claiming connection to the wrong location, persistent despite her not recognizing him. This isn't confusion. This is someone deliberately inserting himself into her life under false pretenses. Watson sends Holmes a telegram describing these findings, but Holmes's reply is frustratingly dismissive. Continue investigating, interview the Schlesingers, check nearby hotels, missing persons usually found within week. Watson feels irritation at Holmes's lack of urgency. He tracks down Dr. and Mrs. Schlesinger at a local boarding house. They're an odd couple. He's towering and bearded with piercing eyes and a booming voice, quoting scripture constantly. She's younger, sickly-looking, with nervous subservience. They claim to be missionaries, recently returned from South America, raising funds for a new mission. Lady Frances, a dear soul, Dr. Schlesinger booms. We met at our hotel and were drawn to her obvious piety. We spent many pleasant evenings discussing the Lord's work. She was considering joining our next mission, a chance to do meaningful work in her later years. Mrs. Schlesinger adds weakly, she was so lonely, poor thing. No family, no real home. My husband offered her the chance to find purpose in service to God. Her words sound rehearsed, and Watson notices how she glances at her husband before speaking, seeking approval. Where is she now? Watson asks directly. Dr. Schlesinger's expression becomes sorrowful. Alas, we too have lost contact. She said she needed time to pray and reflect on whether to join our mission. She mentioned possibly going to a mountain retreat. We've heard nothing since. Something doesn't sit right with Watson. The Schlesingers seem too eager to explain, too ready with answers, but without proof of wrongdoing. He can only note suspicions and continue investigating. He spends 3 more days checking hotels, speaking with station masters, showing Lady Frances's photograph to shopkeepers and police. No one has seen her. It's as if she vanished completely. Watson telegrams Holmes again with growing urgency. Lady Frances definitely missing. Suspicious characters involved. Request you come immediately. Holmes finally arrives, and his first words are, Watson, I fear I've made a terrible error. Your telegrams finally penetrated my complacency. A wealthy, isolated woman, befriended by missionaries, approached by a rough stranger, claiming false connections. This isn't simple missing person case. This is targeted predation, and we may already be too late. Think about Holmes's admission, the great detective acknowledging a mistake. His initial dismissal has cost them valuable days, during which Lady Frances may have been in growing danger. Tell me everything about the Schlesingers, Holmes demands. Watson describes them, and Holmes's face grows grim. Did you notice whether Mrs. Schlesinger wore a wig? Watson blinks. A wig? I'm not certain. Her hair did look somewhat unnatural.